Hello, everyone. Jose and Nick here, coming back to you from Moneyline MMA. We have another week of exciting fights. We have UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill. This fight night is going to take place on Saturday, August 6th at 9 p.m. Central District Time at the UFC Apex Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. For the first fight of the night, we're going to have a women's flyweight bout between Ariane Lipski versus Priscila Cachoeira. The next fight of the night, we're going to have the number 14th ranked Augusto Sakai versus Sergey Spivak at heavyweight. In the next fight of the night, we're going to have a women's flyweight bout between the Ultimate Fighters Brogan Walker versus Juliana Miller. In the next fight of the night is going to be a heavyweight bout from the Ultimate Fighter series. We're going to have Mohammed Usman versus Zach Pauga. For your co-main event, we're going to have the number 6 welterweight Vicente Luque versus the number 13th welterweight Geoff Neal. And for your main event, we're going to have the light heavyweight bout between the number 6 Thiago Santos versus the number 10 Jamal Hill. Let's go.
And opening UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill. We've got a women's flyweight bout between Ariane Lipski and Priscila Cachoeira. Right now, Lipski is listed as the favorite minus 184, and Cachoeira is listed as the underdog at plus 142. Jose, these are some girls that have some UFC experience, but are both kind of struggling right now. In fact, they're both 3-4 in their UFC fights up to this point, with both of them coming off relatively significant wins by decision in their own right. So this is going to be a fascinating one to see. We don't have as much to talk about with some of these girls, although Lipski has faced off against Antonia Shevchenko, the sister of Valentina, Molly McCann, and Joanne Wood, which are all some pretty respectable fighters, but lost to every single one. So it's going to be fascinating. Lipski's going to try and prove herself in the ring here. And her opponent, Cachoeira, has also fought against Molly McCann. Valentina Shevchenko herself to open her UFC debut back in 2018. So she was without a doubt thrown into the fire a little bit. And I don't want to give her a knock too hard when she's fighting some of the best women's fighters out of the gate. But that being said, I think there is a decent reason that Lipski is the favorite here. It just seems like she's got definitely the better ground game. Being Brazilian, she's just got the jiu-jitsu side of her game down. And Jose, I'm going to be fascinated to see how this plays out because she's never been submitted yet. And I think she might be able to submit Cachoeira. We'll see.
Yeah, Nick, I agree with you. Cachoeira out of this, both are phenomenal strikers, both hailing from Brazil. I'm a little surprised that they don't have a lot more submissions and grappling strengths on their resume to say. But that being said, I do think this is going to be a female stand-up game, and I definitely see Priscila Cachoeira, the zombie girl, probably winning the exchange of that, mostly because she does land 4.46 strikes landed per minute versus Lipski's 3.33. Cachoeira, she can absorb, she absorbs 7.91. And who knows, again, she made her debut against Valentina Shevchenko, and she came to the UFC undefeated. She was really highly looked upon, given a challenge to Valentina Shevchenko, but Valentina proving she's, just far beyond a lot of people, a lot of women in this division. So again, I will give her a pat on the back on that one as a no shame in losing to Valentina to your UFC debut. And then following after that, yeah, she has a loss to Molly McMahon. So it definitely Molly McCann. And that's to say, both female fighters right now are looking hot, both Molly McCann and Valentina Shevchenko. So I look at the next fight then too, and it's another loss. For this one, it's going to be a stand-up fight, but I don't know if it's going to be anything spectacular and wow me. Honestly, I think this fight is not even going to be finished. I personally see this fight going to decision. Myself, I'm going to go with Priscila Cachoeira, the zombie girl. She's tough and she presses forward. Lipski is very technical, but I think she's a little more gun shy when it comes to Priscila Cachoeira, the zombie girl. And the zombie girl is just going to keep pressing forward and throwing bombs, and I know one of them will land and hurt Lipski. Will it finish her? I don't know, because the zombie girl's finishing power hasn't been really seen as much in the UFC. She does have one TKO win back in 2021 against Gina Mazzani, and a KO punch against Shanna Dobson back at UFC Fight Night 168. So she has the power, and I think she needs to press forward and try to put out Lipski. But the way Ariane Lipski's defense works and the way she shifts her feet, I see this fight going to decision win for the zombie girl, Nick.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't think there's much evidence going either way significantly in this one, but I'm going to go with Lipski just based off of the idea that if needed, she has the advantage on the ground. Cachoeira was submitted by Jillian Robertson last year in December, and I think Lipski could make that a repeat offense against Cachoeira if needed. She also just seems to absorb a lot less strikes, and I think that's going to bode well in taking less damage for this fight, so I'll go Lipski.
And now, for the next fight of the night, we have a heavyweight bout between Sergey Spivak versus Augusto Sakai. Right now, Augusto Sakai is the betting underdog at plus 180, while Sergey is the betting favorite at minus 235. A lot of people are writing off strong or feeling strong about Sergey in this one, Nick. Mostly probably because Augusto is coming off a 3-fight losing streak in the hands of Alistair Overeem, Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and Tai Tuivasa. Those are big names, though, to lose to. Even Alistair Overeem, he did lose to him in Alistair's later in Alistair's career. But when you're going up against a big guy like Alistair Overeem, you can't take away all the MMA knowledge and striking experience he has, even to this day, how old he is. That just that loss doesn't really look as bad to me. But then Jairzinho Rosenstrike and Tai Tuivasa, those guys are beasts as well. So to me, Augusto Sakai coming into the UFC, I was a big fan of his. I thought I was going to see him make big moves, but yeah, he's on a 3-fight losing streak, and a fourth win here can also mean his foot out the door for the UFC, Nick. And while Sergey, he's been looking nothing but good lately. He is coming off a 1-fight winning streak right now against Greg Hardy, and before he lost to Tom Espinal. Again, but before that, he was running a 3-fight win streak. And again, he's lost. It seems like these guys are losing to some of the top of the top. So this fight's really just gonna be a good old heavyweight bash of seeing who secures their place in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, without a doubt, Jose. I think looking at both of these fighters' history for the past few years is really fascinating. I mean, Sakai was on a really good 5-win streak coming into the UFC. I mean, some of those fighters are iffy, and that does include a split decision win against Arlovsky, which a lot of people, including myself, don't think he should have been granted. But he was able to beat Marcin Tybura as well during that streak in 2019. And Spivak himself fought Marcin Tybura right after that in early 2020 and lost. So it is a little bit telling to have that common opponent and the fact that Sakai was able to win. But in the end, man, I think the polar bear is just he's got that advantage grappling, and I was really impressed by his win against Alexei Olenek, the boa constrictor, last year in June. I mean, it was a decision win, but Spivak was able to pretty much manhandle Olenek. I guess Olenek had 3 minutes of ground control, but in the end, Spivak had almost 5 minutes, and I would say he dominated those exchanges in most cases, even though Alexei Olenek was the one who went for and got the takedown. So Spivak is one of those guys that I think should be feared on the ground. He may not be as good as Curtis Blades necessarily in terms of heavyweights wrestling ability, but man, it's definitely something that you have to be alarmed about. And I'm just not sure Sakai's ready for that. He's gotten 3 straight TKO losses, and I think that's something that he's going to, he's going to be improved in that field. I think he's going to have some good striking, and I don't necessarily think Spivak's going to knock him out by any means, but I would be very careful about betting on Sakai on this one. I just think he's not going to have what it takes to get off the back of or have Spivak get off his back, excuse me, if it does get to that point. So, in the end here, Jose, I think I'm leaning Spivak, the favorite. He's got striking ability close to Sakai, and that grappling game is really the difference maker to me.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, after all, Sakai has actually no submission wins on his record, while Sergey has 6. And Sergey actually has an arm triangle submission win over Tai Tuivasa, which is, that was earlier on in their UFC careers, but still, that speaks volumes to today because how Tai Tuivasa, he's going to fight Cyril Gans soon, I'm pretty sure. So that just shows me that Sergey is a little more diverse when it comes to his MMA game. Both do rock a near 70% takedown defense. Sergey has 70% takedown defense, while Sakai has a 68% takedown defense. So this fight most likely is going to play out on the feet, while Spivak also, Sergey has a 1 inch reach advantage. So I think he's going to probably be ending up, he's probably going to end up winning a little bit more of those exchanges on the feet. And if it does just by any chance happen to go to the ground, I do lean with Sergey on this. He has shown in his past UFC experience that he can finish people in a submission if the opportunity is presented to him. So again, I'm not sure that they're going to be looking for the takedown. It's definitely going to be a heavyweight clang and bang type of fight. But if it does start heading towards the ground, I have confidence in Sergey sinking in a submission and getting Sakai to tap. So for this one, I'm going to lean with Sergey as well. Again, like you said, I just think that his grappling overall in this one is superior compared to Sakai's. But again, I don't know if it's for surely going to be won that way. This is going to be an exciting one. And I mean, Sergey is rocking an 86% finish rate, while Sakai has a 74% finish rate. So yeah, I don't know if this fight's going to make it to the end of the 3 rounds. So for this one, give me Sergey.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I quite have the big enough balls to go for inside the distance here. I'm definitely very confident in Spivak, and I would say he's my lock at this point. But in terms of how that, I don't know, I've got a lot of respect for Sakai and his ability. I'm sitting here saying that as I'm watching him get knocked out time in and time out. But I'm just not sure that's going to continue. I think he's going to, batten down his hatches and avoid at least getting knocked out. I could see the submission happening, but I'm not quite sure I'm willing to put my money there, so I'll go Spivak. Coming in next, we've got a women's flyweight bout determining the winner of the Ultimate Fighter for this season. Juliana Miller fighting Brogan Walker. Jose, this one is going to be a fight that not many people, know much about the fighters here, including myself. I'm not going to act like I've done, like I've sat here and watched either Miller's or Walker's entire come up as a career. But regardless, having seen them on The Ultimate Fighter has been fascinating. And, Juliana Miller, it's fascinating to see that I didn't even know overtime was a thing in MMA really until I've seen her, I believe you said it was Chael Sonnen's league, Submission Underground, where she was getting some wins via overtime, which is just fascinating. But regardless, the favorite for this fight here is Juliana Miller at -138 and Brogan Walker at +108. So it's pretty even, Jose. And I'm curious to see what you think, because personally, I'm really on the fence considering I don't know too much about either one of these fighters. And there's not much to go off of in terms of previous experience since they're both pretty young.
Yeah, Nick, I mean, you said it best. You really can't find much about them unless you watch The Ultimate Fighter and have followed them before they got into the UFC. I know they've done some fights for Invicta, but yeah, there's not that much. Like right now, everything I'm seeing on the UFC page and elsewhere is just kind of blank. But I will say this: I have seen Juliana Miller compete live for jiu-jitsu, and this was before I even knew she was going to go into the Ultimate Fighter and whatnot. But I was watching her close, and she ended up winning in overtime. I ended up watching it at a different. It wasn't the Chael Sonnen Submission Underground, but it was Midwest Finishers for 10th Planet. Juliana Miller is really well known within the 10th Planet circle. So for me, for this one, yeah, I'm gonna be, even though there's not much information on her, like, because she doesn't have that many fights. I mean, she's only fought like once every year since 2019. So there's not really a lot, not very much activity from her, but she is active in the jiu-jitsu community. But again, this is MMA. There is no overtime in MMA. She has to come and get a win or come to some type of resolution by the end of the 3 rounds. So in my best bet, her best way of winning this is going to be via submission. Her being the betting underdog, I think just a lot of people play true to heart to that. I mean, I don't think she's going to end up getting a knockout. She doesn't have the knockout power, and she's not yet that quite technical, to be honest. So in terms of her striking aspect, and Brogan Walker, I think maybe on the stand up, Brogan Walker can win that. And Brogan Walker, the one thing she does have is a lot more experience, and she can play it safe, and she can win this by decision. Brogan Walker, that is. Brogan Walker has like most of her wins are actually via decision. So if she can play it smart and avoid falling into these submission games by Juliana Miller, she just needs to play it safe on the feet, and she can coast to victory. That being said, that's the bet to make if you want the underdog. And this one though, I think Juliana Miller is going to try to finish, and for that, I would say Juliana Miller via submission. I'm gonna go with what her strength is. She doesn't have that much experience, like I said before, but I'm gonna go with her strong suit, which is her jiu-jitsu. So I'm gonna go with Juliana Miller via submission win.
Okay, yeah, I like that pick, Jose. Personally, I think I'm leaning the other way. I think I like Brogan Walker here. She's a little bit older, which doesn't necessarily mean she has more experience, but I'm encouraged to see that she's not been knocked out or submitted yet in her relatively short but still 9-fight pro career, which isn't nothing. And to not have been submitted or knocked out yet, to me, is relatively telling. So I'm confident in Brogan Walker at the very worst being able to get this by decision. But she's gotten a submission win of her own. Maybe if Juliana Miller takes it to the ground, Brogan Walker does a reverse and gets her on her back and starts going for submissions. So to me, this one could go either way, but I'm going to still go with Brogan Walker here, the underdog, and I think she's going to be able to at least take it to the killer Miller. And uh, I'd be tempted to say this doesn't reach decision, but I'm not going to go quite that far just because I don't know enough about these girls. So my pick here is Brogan Walker.
Nick has Brogan Walker, the betting underdog, and I have Juliana Miller. And now for the next fight of the night, we have a heavyweight bout between Mohammed Usman versus Zach Pauga. Right now, Mohammed Usman, Kamaru Usman's brother, he's actually the betting underdog at plus 190, while Zach Pauga is the betting favorite at minus 235. This is a heavyweight bout coming off the Ultimate Fighter. It's a great matchup. Muhammad Usman is actually coming off a loss before he entered the Ultimate Fighter from the PFL. He lost via triangle submission choke in the second round, while Zach Pauga has been looking phenomenal. Right now he's undefeated at 5-0. Most of his wins do come via decision. So to me, it's this fight is just going to be a great breakout performance by either or. It's going to be their time to shine. I think Mohammed Usman personally maybe needs to pick up really get us an impressive win, because especially a lot of people, his last name, I think it holds a lot of value. So I'm sure a lot of people will be when they bring up his name, they'll be mentioning his brother a lot. But I'm sure he's going to come in and try to put on the best performance as possible to really separate his name from his brother and create his own name in the UFC, Nick.
Yeah, no doubt, Jose. I'm excited to see this fight. I don't think it's going to be anything too significant, and especially in comparison to the main event, but it's going to be relatively eventful. Anytime we get the bloodline of who's currently listed as the pound for pound best fighter in the UFC in the ring, it's something at least to turn the TV on for, without a doubt. And this is going to end up being the championship for the Ultimate Fighter. And honestly, both of these guys are coming in strong. Usman, not as strong in my opinion, with the split decision win against Eduardo Perez to get here. In the decision, a unanimous decision win against Sipe, both in the Ultimate Fighter tournament. So I'm just not seeing enough pop out of Usman in terms of having the fight-ending capabilities. He was choked out by Brandon Sales in his last fight in the PFL, and it's I'm not saying that he hasn't improved from that, but if there's any blue line or silver lining for him, it'd be the fact that Pauga is not really a grappler, and it seems like most of this fight's going to take place, on feet standing and just swinging like a boxing match with MMA gloves. So to me, that's what Usman needs to happen if he's going to win this fight. But even then, I don't think he lacks the power to knock out Pauga. And Pauga himself clearly displayed the power to knock out a fighter just about a month and a week ago against Jordan Heiderman. So at least we've got something to back Pauga in terms of he's got the ability to win fights that go the distance and the ability to end the fights early with his fist. So with those things combined, Jose, I think I'm going to go with Pauga.
Yeah, Nick, I agree with you too. I think for this one, we'll go Pauga too. His just I'm running off more what I've seen from him, and he does seem to have crisp, sharp striking, and so from that, I don't see him falling victim to Usman's heavy pressure and trying to throw power bombs. I don't think Usman throws power bombs as fast as other heavyweights. To say he's not really the fastest guy, and he hasn't really shown much to really what force he's going to be reckoned with yet. I want to see actually more from Usman than it is from Zach Pauga. So that being said, I am having high confidence with Pauga on this one, and I'm going to go with him just as far as winning this by unanimous decision, Nick.
Fair enough, Jose. Now, I would want to point out as well that from what I'm seeing, this is a heavyweight matchup. And it seems like Usman is a naturally bigger guy. From what I can see, it's looking like Usman, according to Tapology at least, isn't naturally a 265er, but he's also listed at like 240, which is also pretty big to cut down to light heavyweight, whereas Zach Pauga is listed as a 205er. And I'm just not sure. We might see a relatively big size disadvantage for Pauga, and therefore I'm not thinking that this line is worth actually really betting on. As Jose mentioned, we're talking about a guy who's minus 290. We're just not confident enough if he's going to be at that big of a size disadvantage to take it. So, and that being said, Usman has a 79-inch reach advantage, and for whatever reason, Pauga's isn't listed, but I'd be willing to bet it's not 79 inches. So that could also play the factor. That does not change my pick. I'm still going with Pauga without a doubt because reach advantage alone doesn't make that much of a difference if you don't know how to take advantage of it. And I'm not sure Usman does at this point in his career. He may down the line in the future. I mean, he's 33, so he's not necessarily young either. So it's going to have to be now or never for Usman, but I'm going to go with Pauga still. And I'm just saying to be wary of that minus 290. Maybe put it in a parlay or something, but betting that minus 290 straight up doesn't sound appealing enough. That line should be a little closer to me.
Well, there you guys heard it. Both Nick and I for Zach Pauga.
For the co-main event of UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill, we're finally getting into the more interesting fights here, Jose. Vicente Luque versus Geoff Neal, a welterweight bout in which the favorite is currently sitting at minus 186. That is Vicente Luque. Geoff Neal, the underdog, at plus 144, which I was a bit surprised. I thought Geoff Neal might command a little bit better of a line coming off of what I thought was a pretty strong win against Ponzinibbio, but I do understand that it was a win by, splitting those judges. So it definitely wasn't unanimous, and it was a close fight. I remember watching it last year. It could have gone either way, I suppose. So that being said, if it goes the other way, Geoff Neal's looking at a 3-fight losing streak. And at that point, I can totally understand why the line is what it is. He's gotten a couple big wins, including a win against Bilal Muhammad of his own. But Vicente Luque he's an all around better striker, in my opinion. He's gotten many more knockouts on his career belt, and the fact that he hasn't been knocked out himself. So to me, when it comes down to it, Luque is the better striker, and he came up short in his rematch against Bilal Muhammad earlier this year. I thought he was going to win that fight personally, and he definitely didn't. He got taken down way too many times by Bilal, and overall, that fight wasn't really even close. But that's not something that you really have to worry about, in my opinion, from Geoff Neal. So if this does go as I predict as a standing fight, Jose, I think it might lean in Luque's favor.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that on that, Nick. I mean, Vicente Luque, he has a higher finishing rate than Geoff Neal. Geoff Neal, I definitely see why he's probably not getting that respect that he probably deserves to get from this money line. And I think a lot of fans are writing off the losses he was coming off before that win over Santiago Ponzinibbio. And even that win over Santiago Ponzinibbio, like you said, split decision. A lot of people were, going the other way still for Santiago. So, and some others, for Geoff. So it's really a battle of what fight you saw that night. It's one that I didn't really get a chance to go back and watch over again. But That being said, Vicente Luque coming off that loss to Mohammed, I kind of, when we talked about that fight, I did kind of see it going that way. Vicente Luque, he can beat the top of the top, but there are certain fighters I don't think he can beat, and that is definitely the top, four guys in my opinion of this welterweight division. I don't see him beating Kobe. I don't see him definitely beating Kamaru Usman. Maybe even Shemaev. I don't see him beating him at all. So. That being said, Geoff Neal, that's a name I do see Vicente winning, and that's a win he should get. This guy has a win over the former welterweight champ Tyron Woodley, and he almost put him out on his feet. He almost knocked him out. Tyron Woodley, the only reason I think Tyron Woodley didn't get knocked out was because his dizzy ass went across the cage and landed into and fell into it, and then that's when Vicente Luque decided to sink in that what he calls the Bravo choke. That was an impressive win, and not only that, he has impressive wins over Michael Chiesa and Nico Price, and both do have wins over Mike Perry. But that's Mike Perry's I think in bare knuckle boxing right now, so Mike Perry's just a tough guy that likes to strike. That's how I view Mike Perry. And Geoff Neal, he only loses to guys I always feel like are slightly better than him. And in this case, Vicente Luque, in my opinion, is definitely better than him. He has better submission skills, and I do think Vicente Luque is the better striker in this matchup. He does throw 5.3 strikes, significant strikes landed per minute, while Geoff Neal throws 4.63. So both do throw about the same, but I do lean the edge over the more experienced fighter, Vicente Luque. Definitely more UFC experience as well. And Geoff Neal, he actually does have a loss. I saw to Kevin Holland way before he got into the UFC. So it does seem, but he went on to defeat all these guys too. But again, I really don't know who those guys were that he beat after that to get into the UFC. This is one where I'm definitely leaning towards Vicente Luque. I think Vicente Luque, he can do more than enough to finish this within 3 rounds. But I wouldn't be surprised if this makes it to unanimous decision. So I'm going to play it safe for this one. I'm gonna go with Vicente Luque on this one via unanimous decision, Nick.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't really have too much more to say than that. Honestly, I thought we pretty much covered the majority of why Vicente Luque is going to win this fight, and it's totally worth taking the odds here. He's not even the heaviest favorite that we've discussed up to this point. So to me, Luque is a great option for the parlays this week, and potentially a lock as well. We'll have to explore that. It seems like we've got a couple lock opportunities here as well, which is awesome because we had a good week last week and we didn't even have as many confidence locks. So that being said, overall, exactly what you said, Luque's got all the experience in the world, and he's going to use it to dismantle Geoff Neal and get the W.
And now for the main event, we have a light heavyweight bout between the returning Thiago Santos and Jamal Hill. Right now, Thiago Santos is the betting underdog at plus 220, while Jamal Hill is the betting favorite at minus 295. Thiago Santos right now, his career hasn't been the best since that split decision loss to John Jones. Everyone knows what happened. He tore his knee early in the second round and continued fighting the entire fight. And what makes Thiago Santos so dangerous and what made him so dangerous going into that John Jones fight is how unpredictable he is when he throws his strikes. And he's shown that he can still be that same guy, even when he lost to Glover Teixeira. And he just throws wild punches at the split of a moment, and he's so unpredictable. He is a calm, collective fighter most of the time when he fights, but then out of nowhere for a split second, he unleashes hell, and he puts a barrage of punches on someone just out of nowhere, just a hailstorm out of nowhere, and then goes back to being calm and reserved and being defensive. And then out of nowhere, he's not the type of guy that throws 1 or 2 punches at you. He's gonna throw 6. If once he opens up, it's no going back. He steps forward, and he's not satisfied with 1 or 2 hits to your face. He doesn't even care if he misses. He's gonna keep throwing and throwing and throwing up until something gets thrown back at him that makes him become reserved again. That's the way he's always been playing it. That's how he's been most of his UFC career. And he's just not quite always been that way. And like I mentioned, against Glover Teixeira, he almost put out Glover Teixeira in the first round. And it was going to be crazy. He looked like his old self. But Glover, everyone knows this guy can take a real beating. And he came up from the dead and pretty much ended up finishing Thiago Santos later on. So that being said, Jamal Hill too. There's a lot of hype running up with this guy since he entered the UFC. He does have a loss to Paul Craig via TKO in the first round, but besides that, he does sport four fights that he won in the UFC, not counting Dana White's Contender Series. So Jamal Hill, this guy, he's an exciting fighter. He's electrifying, and he's only got one loss. And out of his 10 wins, 6 of them come via KO and TKO. So this is going to be nothing but fireworks, Nick. These are going to be two guys that are going to be throwing quick and heavy hands. One of them right now has unfortunately just not been looking so hot lately, but overall, this fight will be fireworks, Nick.
Yeah, I think most likely it does have a good chance to finish off the card strong. Let's hope we get something good to finish the card. Nunez and Pena was such a great way to end the UFC event last week, having come off some sad injuries like to Tom Aspinall the week previous. And oh man, it's kind of sick and tired of main events ending in bad ways. I would love to see a fight with the grit that we saw in Nunez versus Pena here. And we know that's what Thiago will happily go there if he needs to. He's very used to having 25-minute fights. If it's necessary to go that far, he's gone that far with some of the best to ever do it in the UFC. And this is just one of the biggest tests Jamal Hill's going to have faced in his entire career. I mean, Johnny Walker is no joke, and having beat OSP 2 years ago is really impressive, but they do not stand up to a guy like Thiago Santos, in my opinion, in terms of matchups. So we're going to really see what Jamal Hill's got in this fight. If he's going to be able to just forget about anything outside the ring and look Thiago in the eyes and beat him in a one-on-one fight, I think he's got a good chance. You know, the loss against Paul Craig is a little bit alarming, but Paul Craig in his own right is a very unique fighter in a different way, with all the abilities everybody knows that he has, grappling and wrestling and all that. So that's not something that's going to be in play for this fight. Thiago is going to gladly keep this fight standing, and I would expect almost the entirety of this fight to take place standing. Obviously, Jamal Hill himself does not have a takedown in his entire UFC career. Um, so, all those other stats aside, I think this is going to be an extremely close fight. I disagree with the fact that Jamal Hill is a minus 300 almost, minus 295 favorite. That's a heavy, heavy favorite against a guy with the ability and the power that Thiago has. But I'm still going to take Jamal Hill to win this fight with spread and all that money stuff aside. He's going to, like I said, he's going to be tested, but I think he's going to be able to come out of it strong.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Nick. Right there, Thiago Santos, tough guy for anyone. And I will give this to Jamal Hill, though. He does have the height and reach advantage over Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos was at a disadvantage with John Jones, so I don't know how much that would necessarily play out. But having a 3-inch reach advantage and landing 7.06 significant strikes per minute really sticks out to me. So I mean, Jamal can easily play this safe, and I honestly think he can jab his way to victory in this one. As long as he can avoid Thiago Santos when he blitzes in and throws a bunch of punches. If he can avoid that, circle out, and stay composed, I think he can win this. That being said, Thiago Santos, his last victory over Johnny Walker, does show that he can keep up with taller, lengthier guys that are athletic, that are very athletic. Johnny Walker is an explosive fighter, and Thiago Santos was able to play it also smart and get a unanimous decision win over him. So this could be another play out. It can play out exactly the same way. We can see Thiago Santos getting a unanimous decision win over Jamal Hill. But I think Jamal Hill is actually better than Johnny Walker. That being said, I do think Jamal Hill has the right tools to get this, to win this fight on the feet. I don't know if Thiago Santos is the same guy he really was. Even then, again, like if he really truly was himself, I said he looked like himself when he fought Glover Teixeira, but he didn't finish him though. The old Thiago Santos would have finished him. And I'm afraid that since his knee injuries to John Jones, he's not really been the much of a heavy wrestler like he used to be. He definitely doesn't bend at the knees as much as like he used to. And he's a tough guy, and all props to him for still going on strong. But it has shown within his last few fights that he's even a little gun shy. Even like he is a reserved guy, but he's not doing his blitzes as much as he used to. He does them every once in a while, but he's not as consistent. And again, maybe that comes with the age as well. But I definitely know that those knees have definitely changed Thiago Santos since he's gotten surgery from the John Jones fight. And that being said, he doesn't have a high submission average either. This fight is not going to go down to the feet like you mentioned. Takedown accuracy for Thiago Santos 36%, while like you mentioned Jamal doesn't have one. Both have pretty much zero submission average. One of them does for sure. Stand up fight is how I see it, and I see the taller, lengthier guy and the younger guy too, probably getting the edge over it. But I don't want to write off Thiago Santos just because of his experience and unpredictability. To be honest, he's a very unpredictable fighter, which is why he's been one of my favorite fighters to watch in the UFC. And I will admit this: I have put money down on Thiago Santos every fight since he's lost to John Jones. Well, I've always gone for this guy, and he's not lived up. So it's who knows, maybe I'm cursed or something, but I'm not going to go with this one this time. I'm going to go with Jamal Hill. I'm going to see him getting the unanimous decision win.
Wouldn't that be funny if the one time you bet against Thiago, he ends up getting the win? Boy, if that's the case, I'm going to know what side to take for all the rest of Thiago's fights. But regardless, yeah, it sounds like we're both agreeing then. Jamal Hill, whether it's by knockout or by decision, seems like he's going to be able to edge this one out in a close fight. Neither of us think this is going to be a runaway fight, but in the end, Jamal Hill, like Jose said, does have the tools necessary, and I think he's going to use those tools to get the win.
You guys heard it, both Nick and I for Jamal Hill.
And now for the betting portion of UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill, coming up to you on August 6th, starting at 6 p.m. are the prelims. Before I get into the best bets of the week, please remember to subscribe to our channel, Moneyline MMA on YouTube, and leave a comment down below on who you guys are going to be betting on and who you guys favor in terms of the disagreements between Jose and I. And also drop a follow on Twitter at Moneyline MMA. We post our weekly picks before the card begins. As I know I've mentioned previously, sometimes the picks can change into 3 or 4 days between recording and when the fights actually occur. So that being said, let's get right into it with our lock of the week. Both Jose and I are in agreement that Sergey Spivak is going to be the lock of the week here. He is slightly less of a favorite than Jamal Hill, being minus 260, and Jamal Hill against Thiago Santos is minus 295. So Spivak is not quite the biggest favorite, although minus 260 is pretty heavy, and we both believe that there's a strong chance for a knockout as well in this fight. So we're going to go and combine that, saying Spivak as the lock and also as a best bet to be KOing Augusto Sakai in that fight. We're going to have differing underdogs again this week, as Jose and I pretty much agreed on the main 3 favorites for this card, but in terms of the other 2 fights here, we did not. And it's interesting because Jose went with Cachoeira in the opening fight between Lipski and Cachoeira, and I went with Lipski. These are 2 girls we have a little bit of information on, both Brazilians, and it's pretty much, going to come down to the grappling game, it seems like. But I ended up favoring the favorite, Lipski. Jose had the underdog Cachoeira at plus 144. So Jose's underdog of the week will be Priscila Cachoeira. My underdog of the week is going to be Brogan Walker. That is a slight underdog situation there at plus 108. And she's fighting Juliana Miller. And that's talking about a fight we don't have much information on. That fight is for the tournament championship of the Ultimate Fighter. And neither of these girls really have substantial experience. But I'm still going to say it. Brogan Walker is my underdog of the week. Getting into the parlays. The best parlay for this week is going to pretty much just be combining the highest favorites. We're going to combine Spivak with Luque and Jamal Hill. And that 3-leg parlay will be plus 185, at least on FanDuel. And to me, that's just a pretty straightforward bet. You know, not all times do we just put nothing but favorites in the parlay, but in this case, I think you can rest easy that these favorites will get the job done. If you guys are willing to get a little bit more risky, it's pretty much going to come down to who you chose in the fights that Jose and I disagreed on. Now, there is the other tournament championship fight between Zach Pauga and Mohammed Usman, and Jose and I both kind of agreed that it just seemed like Pauga had more all-around ability to take down and beat Usman. So that's definitely an option for this fight, but Pauga's minus 290, I believe. Another close to the highest favorite on this card for a good reason. So we're going to go instead with letting you guys pick which one of the underdogs that you favor, whether that's Brogan Walker, or Priscila Cachoeira. In my case, of course, I'm going to add Brogan Walker in there. That's my underdog of the weekend. For those 4-leg parlay, you can get plus 492. And to me, that's a great bet to make. Again, if you don't want to have the risk of those Ultimate Fighter championship girls in there, then you can get plus 185 with the first 3-leg. And if you decide to go with Jose's underdog route with Priscila Cachoeira, that 4-leg parlay will be plus 595. So feel free to also add in Zach Pauga in there as well for a 5th leg if you really want. That'll get the odds up to about plus 800, plus 750. And I think that's fair to do. I think Usman has some talent and some ability, but it's just not going to translate to the UFC that well, I don't think, especially at the higher ranks when he's getting to these tournament championship fights. So definitely Zach Pauga if you're looking for another leg to a parlay here. But otherwise, those are our best bets for this week. Again, please give us a follow on Twitter as we will post our final locks, our final underdogs, and our final best parlay on Saturday before the fights. And that'll be it for Moneyline MMA coverage of UFC Fight Night Santos versus Hill. Don't forget to subscribe to us so you can catch our next content coming out next week for UFC Fight Night Vera versus Cruz coming up to you on August 13th. That's going to be a big one, so keep an eye out for our video next week. Have a good one.